long time ago, a little more than a month in fact, there lived a German woodcutter and accountant by the name of Rolf Nine. Although Mr. Nine was a fairly decent woodcutter, his accounting practice never flourished because he did not have a good understanding of the SARS. As a result, he was constantly turning away business.
Can you perform a compilation for me?
9!
Can you perform a review for me?
9!
And thus, as fate would have it, Mr. Nine's name was quite appropriate. Over time, the family became poorer and poorer, which made Mr. Nine's wife very unhappy.
Rolf, you turned away another compilation today.
But Brunhilde, I know nothing about assurance engagements.
Alas, Mr. Nine did not understand that a compilation was not an assurance engagement. It was, however, an attest engagement.
Attest assurance all sounds the same to me.
And Mr. Mannheim is furious about the trial balance you sent him last week when he had requested a financial statement.
Once again, Mr. Nine was confused, as he did not understand that a trial balance could never be a financial statement, which, as everyone knows, is a structured representation of historical information under a framework, and no known framework recognizes a trial balance.
If you don't learn your accounting, we're all going to starve.
It was true. In fact, all Mr. Nine's potential clients were going to that know-it-all firm down the lane.
Rolf, we can't afford fresh vegetables for the children, and if we can't afford fresh vegetables, then we'll have to get rid of them.
The vegetables?
No, the children.
So, much to his dismay, the father took his children into the deep, dark woods to ditch them there because that was easier than figuring out the objective of a compilation.
Father, why are we walking so far into the woods?
Because your mother says I have to get an engagement letter.
It was a good excuse, since although the objective of a compilation is simply to assist management with the financial statements without providing any assurance at all, an engagement letter was required for every engagement.
Here it is now. Be good children and go get it for me.
And with that, the father quickly disappeared back into the woods. Fortunately, the two children, Hansel and Gretel Nine, had overheard their parents' conversation the night before, and Hansel, being a bright young lad,
I'm a bright young lad,
figured out that they were about to be ditched, so he brought along a fruit cake and dropped off pieces of it as they walked through the woods, leaving a trail back home, for he knew that no creature on the planet would eat fruit cake. No sooner had Mr. Nine returned home than the two children came skipping up the lane behind him.
I told you we should have given that fruitcake to your brother and his wife.
Later that night, the wife was still nagging the poor old woodcutter and accountant.
Rolf, we still have no money and 4 mouths to feed.
But what if I do a review?
What's a review?
Again, Mr. Nine couldn't answer because he had never learned that the objective of a review was to obtain limited assurance for the financial statements.
Well, I have limited assurance you can do it. Get rid of the kids.
So, the very next morning, with a very heavy heart,
This axe ain't so light either.
Rolf Nine took his two children even deeper into the dark woods.
Father, why are we going even deeper into the dark woods?
Because your mother says we have to meet with the user of the financial statements.
Once again, it was a clever ruse because a compilation or review involves a three-party relationship between the accountant, management, and the user. This is critical so the accountant could determine the framework, obtain financial information, and write a report.
Oh, what a lovely spot for a picnic. You two wait here while I go get some cheese dip.
Hansel, I think we've been ditched again.
It's not a problem, Gretel. I have left another trail, this time with peanut butter candy pieces.
Unbeknownst to the children, Hansel's trail had been eaten up by wild animals. With no trail to lead them home, Hansel and Gretel were hopelessly lost in the deep, dark woods.
Hansel, why don't you try using your cell phone to call home?
Sorry, Gretel, there are no bars.
But we do have pubs.
Father is not really that bad an accountant. His biggest problem is that he worries about everything.
It was true, for Mr. Nine had never fully understood the concept of materiality. To be material, it must influence the decision-making of the user.
And if I don't care, why should he?
But then materiality is relative to the circumstances, and one would need to apply professional judgment.
I still don't care.
Eventually, the children came to a fork in the road, and the children became aware that they were quite hungry, and so they went down a new path in search of food. Suddenly, they came upon a clearing, and found an extraordinary cottage made entirely of gingerbread and candy.
What rotten luck! Here we are starving, and all we found is a candy cottage.
Ew! Who wants to eat that?
You may assume that all children love candy, but that was not true with the Nines. However, certain assumptions are critical with regard to materiality.
What's that got to do with the story?
Nothing, but I have to work the information in somehow. Users will have to study the statements, understand materiality, recognize the uncertainties, and then make reasonable decisions.
Speaking of reasonable decisions, that looks yummy.
Much to their surprise, in addition to the candy cottage, there was also a broccoli cottage, fancifully adorned with lovely carrots and bits of cauliflower. And with that, the two children began to feast of the vegetable house. Unbeknownst to the children, the broccoli house was the home of an evil witch who generally made her meals of small lost children. And she was quite a hungry witch, as no children had visited her house for many years.
I don't understand it. My sister always seems to get the plumpest children to visit her.
This would be even better if we had some cheese sauce. Let's look inside to see if we can find some.
But once inside the cottage, the children began to suspect that something was wrong. Very similar to the feeling you would get with a going concern issue. In a compilation and review, if you're not sure that a business will last at least another year, then that would need to be discussed with management, and a disclosure might be needed.
Can we get back to us?
Why, yes, of course.
I think this cottage may belong to a witch.
What makes you think that?
At that precise moment, they heard the witch coming in from the back of the cottage, and the children scurried to find a place to hide. Find your own place to hide.
I believe this spot is taken too.
With no place to hide, the witch quickly captured the two children, put Hansel in a cage to fatten him up, and put Gretel to work cleaning the cottage.
I don't understand why you eat children when you have all these lovely vegetables to eat.
I don't like the taste of vegetables. Yucky.
What you need is a good cheese sauce.
Gretel had made a good point that with a good cheese sauce, the witch might discover that she actually liked vegetables, sort of like subsequent discovery of facts in a compilation review. That's when you find out information related to the financial statements that you did not know at the time of the report.
There he goes again.
In that case, you may have to revise the financial statements and the report depending on the circumstances.
Sure, whatever. But tell me more about this cheese sauce. I bet it tastes great on children as well.
With that, Gretel explained to the witch how to make a very special cheese sauce, and together they got to work. She said she should begin with the finest curd and add savory spices like pepper, parsley, and most importantly, thyme. Lots of thyme.
This sauce smells wonderful, particularly with all that thyme.
Ah, the witch was playing right into Gretel's plan.
Why not lean in for a better whiff?
But when the witch leaned in, Gretel swiftly shoved the witch into the pot of cheese dip, where she became trapped in the gooey mess. Gretel quickly released her brother, stole the witch's GPS, and quickly made their way back home. Much to their surprise, when they got home, Hansel and Gretel found their father deeply engrossed in a self-study CPE course.
I decided I needed to learn more about this accounting stuff, so I got a self-study course and sent your mother on a carnival cruise.
The children told their father all about their adventures with the witch, and he said that sounded like an illegal act. And based on what he'd learned from his course, any illegal acts discovered in a compilation and review would need to be communicated to the proper level of management, or even higher, depending on the circumstances.
Hey, this guy really knows what he's talking about.
But with the help of his newfound knowledge and his bright young children, Rolf Nine's accounting practice flourished, and the family never wanted for anything ever again. And the moral of this story is, a witch in time saves 9, or children should be seen and not curd.